We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air, President Roosevelt has just announced.
I remember when it happened. I was in the shop. I had went out there to do a lady's hair, and I was lighting my stove when it had turned the radio on, and I heard it. And then I told her, I said, you have to come back tomorrow. I got to go. So I left. I don't know why I wanted to leave, but I didn't want to work when I heard that.
I had a radio on stanchions to the barn that I had picked up somewhere and put up there, and we turned it on. That was the first time we heard about Pearl Harbor. That was about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. And then Roosevelt declared war the next day, and everything changed.
I was frightened by being at war. I was afraid they were going to attack us, was really what I was afraid of. And I just didn't know what the future held or what was going to happen.
It scared us all to death. We were afraid they was going to come over here. We all come to the house. We all sat around and talked about it. My mother and daddy and my sisters and my brother.
My mama, she kept up with the news, and she knew exactly every day about the news. She could tell you what was going on, where they were at.
And she was a praying mother. I can remember when things would get kind of, you'd get upset over, hearing the things that was going on. And she'd get on her knees and get all of us set around and pray. I can remember that vivid.
Didn't worry me at all. As long as we got Jesus. I tell you, I ain't never worried about nothing no more. He takes care of everything, so I got nothing to worry about. Never talked about war with my family, 'cause I know what's gonna be.
The Navy had this special program that they were offering a rating to anybody that would get in, especially to be trained for radar technician. Well, I knew I was going to have to go anyway. I was going to be drafted, and I just thought that was the better of the two. And I was very interested in electronics and was anxious to learn a lot more. And radar was new. Nobody knew anything about it at that time, and I was anxious to learn something that I didn't know.
Well, he was getting dressed to go to the army, and he took a bath, and I don't know where he walked on the back porch barefooted, and he left his tracks in the linoleum. And after he left, my mama saw those tracks, and she started crying. She held up real good till then.
Well, we would fight forest fires, sit out pine trees, kudzu, and build barbed wire fences. They didn't call me no more. I went on and got a job then at, I don't know where you can remember, the McDowell Wholesale Company. You know where the Georgia Depot is? Right across front of it. Across the railroad. Old brick building ought to be still now, isn't Miss Pete? Yeah, the train then going through pretty right because the war was going on. And they're shipping soldiers different places. I seen them let them out there between those two depots there, let them get out and exercise. They be done rolled them so far, and they let them get out and exercise.
Sometimes you see a car and it just be loaded when it's all be on there in that car. Just be nothing but soldiers. We'd be waving and they would be waving back. You felt good when you saw them because you felt like they were protecting you. You really would.
And that was where the trains came through. Our pastime was to go down to the railroad track and just stop, and it was just one train after another going to Camp Gordon. And we'd watch the trains with the train loads of soldiers passing through. You know, they were coming by and their arms hanging out the window, and we would just sit there waving. I felt like that we were close to a camp that they could protect that area of the state. You know, the soldiers were nearby. That was sort of a comfort.
That's the Fairview Club. It's still going on. The home demonstration agent would come, and she'd teach us something about cooking or sewing or something we needed to know about a housekeeper. Sat around a table. We'd have refreshments, and it was about 30 in it, so, and meet at one of them's house, you know. And we discussed the war, you know. We talked about everything, but the war was a big topic. So we did roll bandages during the war. And we also sent them cookies a lot, too.
If we got packages with food in it, we divided it with all the boys. I know I got a package when I was in New Guinea. They sent me a little fruit cake about that big with a hole in the middle of it. And also in the package, they sent me a package of talcum powder, and that package of powder had busted, and that fruit cake was white all over from that white powder. But we sliced off all the edges with that white on it, and we ate the fruit cake anyway.
You know, Bud and James both got wounded. It first come at, you know, they were missing in action. And so you get that letter. I don't know why they'd send you that letter, missing in action. And then about a week or so later, they'd send you another and said he'd been found, you know, and he was being, you know, took care of and everything. I tell you, we all cried. You know, we thought they were dead, you know, to start with. But, you know, finally at last we got that letter and said they were wounded and they was being took care of. And that was a good time. That's when everybody went back being happy.
Hog, chickens.
Raised chickens and had a cow. We planted cotton and corn and peas and soybeans.
English peas, beans, greens, peas, collards, turnips.
One hog or maybe two, and milk cows, so we had milk and butter, and chickens running loose in the yard. We had eggs.
Here at home, everyone will have the privilege of making whatever self-denial is necessary, not only to supply our fighting men, but to keep the economic structure of our country fortified and secure during the war and after the war.
They had a special man in the county that handled all the rationing. Butler Atkinson, his name was Butler Atkinson, and he was that rationing man.
Had to go down to the government office and get stamps, and then you'd go to the stores where they sold it, and you could get the amount that stamps paid for.
And the meat, they let you have 4 pounds a lot or 5 pounds a lot, and you get that every 2 weeks. You couldn't get it every week. Wherever you buy your grocery, they were lancing it out. You couldn't just go there and buy what you want like you can now. You had to get whatever they announced to each family.
A lot of times you'd have stamps for stuff and you couldn't buy it. And Blanche's father was, he's traded with Rogers store in Madison all the time, and he went in there, and he had some stamps for sugar, and the manager done told him he didn't have any sugar. And they had a bathroom there in the back of the store, and he went back to this bathroom, and he looked up there, and there was a pile of sugar sacks about high as your head, 50-pound bags. But he never went back in that store again. It made him so mad. He never went in the store again.
I had both of my book of food stamps in my pocketbook. And when we got on the bus in Atlanta, I think, and I had to sit on one seat, and the man was on the other side. But I was on the window side. And I put my pocketbook right between me and the window, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, it was Shreveport, and Ma said, "Let's get off and get something to eat." And he was up waiting on me, and I went to get my pocketbook. It was gone. The man was gone too. And we told the police, and we looked all over that. I think it was a bus stop, and we never did see him. I think I would have known him, but never seen my pocketbook either. So we just did not have anything to eat unless we ate out, and we didn't have enough money for that every meal. So I went to the ration board, and it was meeting. I found out it was meeting that day. And the first person I saw was this old man, and he had an ear trumpet, which I've never seen before. And he couldn't hear nothing, even much with the ear trumpet. And he asked me what I wanted. I told him. He didn't understand. I told him about 7 times, I think. And finally he understood it. And he come over and he put his arm around me, and he said, he told that woman, said, "Write this little lady out 2 ration books." And she looked so funny, but he stayed with it, and I got them. And I think I was the only person that ever got them the first time he went. But I got them, and I sure was glad to get them too.
So we got in the car, our tires were thin, and he barely had enough stamps to get to Dublin and back and all of that. And we got to Dublin about 10 o'clock, and she was born, I think, about 2 o'clock. I was in the hospital 2 weeks, and I don't know why I didn't get a birth certificate then. We came back from Dublin with no birth certificate. Said she's got to go on the bottle. And so when we got back to Madison, and Harry went up to the office where they issued the stamps, they told him they couldn't give him any because we didn't have a birth certificate. So he happened to stop at Mr. Aiken, who was on South Main Street along about where, I think his name is Hudson. There's a frame shop in there. Mm-hmm. And he went in there and he told Mr. Aiken, said, "I don't know what we're going to do." Said, "Our baby hasn't gained but just a few ounces of weight," and it was very few. And he said, "She's starving to death." Said, "My wife can't nurse her anymore, and we don't have any stamps or whatever they were called to buy any milk." And he said, "Well, just wait here a minute." And he was in the seed and feed business that the Penningtons later bought out. But anyway, he carried a few groceries, and he happened to have some milk, evaporated milk. And he came back with this tray of milk, and he said, he came out to the car with it. And he said, "We're not going to let this baby starve to death." Said, "You take this milk and said, if you ever get the stamps, you can, or any stamps, said you can bring them back to me. Well, he was breaking the law. But now I can tell it. This coming Saturday, she will be 71 years old.
It start with, we made army tents. They'd stack it on these cutting tables, and they had the big old machine that cut them like they need to be.
Yeah.
And they'd be stacked that high. It'd be 100 pieces, wouldn't it? Higher or more.
I was a bundle boy. I'd go to the cutting table and pick bundles of the materials up and take them to the machines.
And they'd bring them and put a row of them here on this side and one on this side. And here is your sewing machine. And you'd pick up one of these corners here and put it under the needle and this and here. And you'd run them. So I can remember that this well. Oh, there's 40 or 50. There's a big space. And they had certain parts that you done here and in this room, and then there'd be another room connection, and they'd take them on in there and finish them up. And my mother got to be an inspector in the finishing room.
Said, well, you never was out of a job, but there wasn't no money in it. But you wasn't gonna make no money because that's just the way it was. Wasn't paying but 25 cents from sun to sun here. We traveled to do better. The group was got together and went to traveling. We could do a little better. They paid a little bit more. Right. That's why we travel. Travel for a long time. We go to Florida and around October, plant seed beds, made a seed beds. The man funded, sorry, the prison for us to stay. It was tough down there now. No, he run a commissary, and you had to eat out his commissary. And Sangerman had a $2 book to a $3 book, and married people had $5 book to get groceries. He paid us, we made $1.50 a day. When you wasn't getting but 25 cents here a day from sun to sun. So we got on there, he paid us $1.50 a day. And we come back to here about the middle of March and start our farm.
Yeah, that's what he had. What we had to do. You save all them, put them in different piles, like all that rubber and stuff and tin and stuff, and put it in different piles. And they'll give you a different price for it. Well, wouldn't pay you much, but you get a little bit. Sure would.
It was something to see an airplane back then. You know, they had some then that didn't have a top on them. For some reason, you could see them, see their
Sitting.
it was a funny looking.
Whatever you call them.
They was funny looking. We had moved into that farm over there where Dr. Lewis, his farm's at. You know, his son's over there. Daddy would keep us children busy, and we were clearing up new ground, and we was getting up roots and stumps and, you know, working. And I noticed the airplanes had come over, and they would come over. It looked like they was coming so close to us that you could almost take a stick or something and hit them because they was flying.
Some of them big, I'm talking about them great big airplanes, they get right down on the ground. We were over there in the corn patch. Oh, we were plowing the corn. And that airplane come down through there in that field, and it's one of them twin engines, now the big one. And that thing was knocking them limbs off that corn. They were so low. Woo, we all run. Like scared to death.